Hey lads, I said I was going to do this. This is going to be my first video. This is going to be a bit of how I paint my Berserker Uruk-Hai. Today, it's going to be the start of my transition from an army painter to a display painter. So I want to improve, I want to get better, so any CNC you can give me will be more than appreciated. Now, I'm going to paint him how I've painted the other 5 that I've shown you, and this is the process that I've gone through. I'm going to put Chinese subtitles on this hopefully for me to learn a little bit of Chinese, some keywords and such forth for when I play any Lord of the Rings games over here. I'm pretty much set up. I've got my Yorkshire Brew, got my figure, got my paints, so hopefully this goes all well, and hopefully I don't make a cock up of it really. So let's get into it.
So to start with, I needed to get my skin tones down, so I needed to spray it with a nice light colour. So I used Citadel's Grey Seer from the Rattle Cam. After I got a nice even coverage, I let it dry for 24 hours. I needed to put my base coats down, and I needed to know where to put the shadows. So I used contrast paints, because I think that they are pretty cool for doing this. I used brown and red, and I used some red to give me the highlights and the brown to provide me the shadows, so I at least knew where they were. But I also used some reference pictures from some Uruk-Hai that I liked from the internet. One was from Weta and the other one was from another studio. After I had that finished, I had an idea of where my highlights were going to be and where my shadows would be, and I had a better understanding of this. So I wanted to make my base coats more solid. So I used Shadow Flesh from Vallejo and I started applying it, covering all the darker recesses. Then I started using a 50-50 mix with Mournfang, brown and Shadow Flesh to increase the mid-tones and get some more definition. I used a bit of Doombull brown to give it a bit more of a browny skinned colour you generally see on Uruk-Hais. Then I had my base coats complete. After that, I wanted to get it even lighter. I wanted it to be nice and bright, so I used some Bugmans Glow. And I mixed it in with a bit of Doombull brown. And I started to increase my mid-tones and I just gently sketched it in little by little. Then I had my basic tones finished. And I only started on the leg because I wanted to test out this colour scheme to make sure I was happy with the final product before doing it all over the model. Now we get to the mid-tones. So for the mid-tones we had our basic wet palette of colours, but we needed to go lighter, so I wanted to use Cadian Flesh Tone as I felt it was a perfect mix for that. I added a little bit of Cadian Flesh Tone to my palette and then I carried on adding it to previous colours, just highlighting them and making them a little brighter. I did all of this in a sketching motion. To start with, I kind of hated the skin, but after a while of just gently applying the mid-tones one after the other, I kind of enjoyed doing it and I kind of liked the final product. But I must have done this around 3 or 4 times. So I would say don't be scared, just keep trying and trying and trying, and you're never going to be happy with it. I mean, it's an art form. Artists are never happy with their work. You might not like to paint, you might enjoy playing the game more, but I could probably guarantee you that you're going to spend more time painting rather than playing the game. And that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to miniature painting. So that's why I set my task of trying to become a better painter, because we've just got so much time in our hands recently that I thought, why not? Now I'm using some contrast paints to try and put my shadows back in, because I think I might have just got rid of them a bit too much, and I find that they work pretty well as a controlled wash. And I also use them to blend the layers together. I've watched artists such as like Sergio Calvo, I hope I've pronounced it correctly, blend together their layers, but they use an airbrush and his skill level is just, well, is off the charts. If you get the chance, Google him and you'll be amazed with what he does. So I've used the contrast paints to blend my mid-tones and my darker tones together, so I've got no stark contrast lines between each layer. I felt it worked out pretty well, but it got rid of too much highlighting. So that's what I need to go back into now to try and fix. Right, the power of video editing. Look, all finished, completely done, woohoo! But now to the highlights. So we've got rid of some high tones, so I need to put them back in with Cadian Flesh tones and my Bugmans Glow. And I'm just going back over what I did previously, and I'm just gently putting them in. I also wanted to add some definition to the muscles, like on the back, and increase the shadows. So I'm using my contrast paints again to increase the shadows, and I am connecting my muscle groups. I love highlighting these berserkers. I mean, I wish I could field them. I just wish more people played Lord of the Rings over here, and I could just charge in with them from the back line. But hey ho, that's for the future, and that's the whole point of doing this video, is to try to get more people to play Lord of the Rings. I mean, I do love 40k, and I love the 40k lore, but I prefer the game mechanics of Lord of the Rings, as I just feel it's more balanced overall. Now, after I've finished putting my shadows back in, I'm making sure that my muscle groups are toned out, but they're also the colours flowing between each group to give it more of an organic feel. I then went back in with my Bugmans Glow and my Cadian Flesh tone, and just making sure I have the highest points where the light would hit. And I've got two lights set up, so I'm always constantly looking where the light bounces, where I need to put them tones, and where my shadows should be. And now my skin tones highlighted, is my next step is the metal. So I have some airflow improver, Boltgun Metal, and some Abaddon Black together. This Boltgun Metal is still going strong. I mean, I've had it since the 90s, and I must have painted 50 Iron Warriors and probably another 50 Iron Hill Warriors, and I can't believe it's still here. I think when it does run out, my next purchase will be some Vallejo metal colour, if it ever does run out. Now, I base coat all my metals, and then I move on to my leather. Right then, the next colour, Dryad Bark from Citadel. I mean, I go through so much of this with Lord of the Rings. Why is everything brown? It just seems every model is just a variant of brown. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a wetter workshop colour scheme with the skin tones. I just didn't want any more browns or variants of browns. Don't get me wrong, I do understand that it's realistic to have more browns, and I understand that the movies are an artistic impression, but that's what they are. They're an artistic impression from the book. It's based on a book, and the book is from your imagination. And you can change it however you want, because everyone's imagination is slightly different. So that's why I went for a more red skin tone, and I'm happy I did, because it just gives it a little bit of a change. I think that's one of the advantages of painting 40k, which is you're not really set in stone with the colour scheme as you are with Lord of the Rings. You can paint whatever you want, and you can still be quite happy with that. But with Lord of the Rings, we put ourselves under so much pressure to replicate the box art or to produce what we see in the movies. And why? It's your model, it's your creation, you can do whatever you want, you should be happy with what you create. You shouldn't feel bad and judge yourself by those mediums. I've just used Gawthorne Brown to highlight the highest points and what I got from my contrast paints. That's why I use my contrast paints, to find out where I should put that. Now, I saw Venturella on YouTube use Waithbone to make a warm leather. And you put it on in a scratching fashion, try not to be uniformed, and adding some randomness to the leather to make it look like realistic. After you have put your Waithbone all over, you need to dull it down, and you use washes to do this. I used Agrax Earthshade and Antonian Camo Shade, Syrian Sepia and Nuln Oil, and I blend them together to give it a more realistic tone, just following what I saw in his video. I used Guilliman Flesh on the lighter leather because I just wanted it to be a different colour from the darker tones. And I do 2 or 3 passes with these washes just to dye it down. I might bring the Waithbone back to give it a little bit more detail. Now, to the leather highlights. I use a bit of Baneblade Brown and I put that on my wet palette. I mean, I had this wet palette for 2 days after I spilled my Black Templar contrast paint all over it. So my nice new orange wet palette is half black. My luck. Can't believe that. So I'm just making sure I put it on the highest points, picking out the small details as you can see, just reinforcing those highlights. Making sure that the highlights facing the light source are brighter to pop the details. Afterwards, I use some Waithbone in the eyes. Now, I mean, oh my god, why are these models so small, the eyes? It's bigger than my brush, and my brush is a 00. So as you can imagine, I had a lot of mistakes. This is a part I really want to improve on. I mean, I don't think my recipe has changed that much in 15 years. I mean, I haven't been painting for 15 years, but generally speaking, I still do it as I did as a teenager. After I have my base coats down, I use a dry brush of Boltgun Metal to pick out the edge highlights. After I pick them out, I need to go over again with a bit of Boltgun Metal and just sketch in some of the highest points where the light would reflect the brightest. I really don't know if this is the best method to do this. It seems to work okay. I mean, I'd love to add different colours to the mixture, but I haven't found a way to try and blend true metallic metal with non-metallic metal yet. But I haven't even tried non-metallic metal, so that might be the next one to learn. You never know. Now I'm just making sure I find all the details. Now, the white hand of Saruman. Oh, it's scary doing this. I mean, after I finish my painting, this is the only time this can be created, and it's the chance to ruin it as well. So I'm just steady, steady, steady. I start with the palm. I get my palm sketched out. I've got my reference material on screen, so I kind of know where each part goes. Once I get the palm done, I need to start with the digits. I start with the thumb, and I want the thumb above his right eye. So I'm just going really slow and carefully. I mean, afterwards I move on to each part of the finger one by one. And I just keep taking my time and try not to rush. Anything can be fixed, it just takes time. I mean, one day I would really love to be able to do some freehand, like you can see on them Imperial Titans. I mean, I don't know if you've googled them, but wow, they look absolutely fantastic. We'll get there eventually, but for this hand, I just need to keep plodding along slowly but surely. Try not to make any mistakes, and if I make some mistakes, I'm just going to use Boltgun Metal to thin the lines out again and give me some definition. And that's it really, just slow and surely. I just try to keep my hands steady. My hands do shake quite a bit, so it's kind of tough. I'm just bracing them on the table. Once I've finished with the Waithbone, I use white scar to highlight the hand to give it more contrast. I mean, afterwards I use some Boltgun Metal to create scratches to show the metal plate underneath, because it is only white paint on top of a metal helmet and it will get weathered. After I have finished scratching up the hand, it's time for blood for the blood god. I water it down and I apply it to the skin recesses. The reasoning behind this is he's been fighting, he's a berserker, his skin is tearing because he is a mutant, so it's just there's going to be blood on his body. And a bit of Abaddon Black just to finish the base. Right, we're on to the home stretch, basing time. We're not that far away now until we're finished. I am basing him like I've based the rest of my Uruk-Hai. I my Uruk-Hai are split into two type of factions because I have Uruk-Hai Scouts, which I feel like they're on the fields of Rohan, and then I have my Uruk-Hai Warriors and Berserkers, which I feel are attacking Helm's Deep, or at least that's when you see them in the movies. I've put some PVA glue down, and I'm applying some grass from Army Painter as a base for what's to come next. Now in my head, these are attacking Helm's Deep, and Helm's Deep is Rohan, grass fields, they're in the mountain, there's 10,000 Uruk-Hai, it's raining, they've churned up the ground. So I'm going for a more like muddy effect. So this is why I've got three types of mud. I'm going to lay these muds down. I've got my grass because it was a grassy field, that's my base. I'm going to add a dark colour mud because they're attacking at night time. And I'm going to make sure I have a nice even coverage. I mean, you've got to imagine there's 10,000 Uruk-Hai stomping the ground, making the ground turn to mud, so that's why I want it so muddy. And if you look at the movies, they're on gravel, but I think they mainly did that because of movie production limits, not really to be more realistic. So after I have all my base finished with this black mud, I use a European mud to go over to kind of highlight little bits. Now the mud has little bits of twigs in, but the reason why I put the base coat of grass down is I wanted some grass to show under, through it. And after I've highlighted with some European mud, I use a bit of Stirlands mud from Citadel to give it a little bit more of a higher point. And now, because these Uruk-Hai are walking in formation, I'm making indentations in the mud, because they're walking line by line, so the mud is going to be more thinner in points and thicker in others. I apply a grass tuff because I feel like a lone grass tuff would miss the marching, and I apply some Stirland mud to this tuff to make it feel like the mud has been splashed on. The channels that I've made, I start to fill them with still water. As it's raining, the water would flow down to the lowest points naturally, and I add some diorama effects from Vallejo to make it like the rain droplets are hitting the water. And that's it. Everything is finished, completely done, and I hope you liked the video. And here's some pictures to enjoy of the finished product. Let us know what you think. Ta-ra, guys.